at least few of the things which were missing. You helped us to add on the subject. And I believe now the final result is a comprehensive manual. Any such operational manual will be outdated, even 1 minute after the publication, because you go on changing the things. New operations, new processes are introduced. But we believe that this will be a base document to rely on, and definitely one can refer to whenever required. So lately, our interaction with you on NSCL matter have made us all convinced that without you and your team, we will not have been at a stage where we are, where we feel that there is a hope for investors. I'm saying this from my heart. It's not because you are here I'm saying this. It's usually a relationship with regulators and brokers. They don't go well. But here, I must admit, sir, you are a friend, philosopher, guide for all the matter, including NSCL. And sir, again, big thank you for all your support and guidance in NSCL matter, and of course today to remain present and inaugurate this manual for us. Of course, my warm welcome to Ashish ji, my friend, MD and CEO, BSE. He is always there to help us and encourage us, irrespective of whether that matter belongs related to BSE or not. And if any matter we take to him, and whenever he see a scope of betterment of investing community, we have found full support with him. Thank you, sir, for remaining present here. And of course, I would like to thank Shri Praveen Singhal for your support in making this menu. And Mr. Samir Shah, who is not here, from NCDX, I would also like to put on record compliments to him. Finally, I welcome all the members present, and of course all the viewers from the internet, because this program is real-time getting webcasted. It's a technology at your advantage, and of course a disadvantage, because when people can see event happening at home, why they will come all the way to South Mumbai. So that's why we are seeing in our function thinning and thinning of the crowd. But anyway, we can't help it. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you, Siddharth Bhai. Friends, all of you are very important for us. As Siddharth Bhai said that people sit at home or in offices and do not like to come here. So I must recognize your presence, everyone's presence, but I would be failing in my duty if I don't recognize the presence of at least two gentlemen here. Shri Naresh Tejwani, the president of NME, who is here with us, and Shri Kishan Bhai Choksi, who is the joy of our industry, everybody knows about it, our mentor, philosopher and guide. The guest now I am calling to speak is known to everyone. It is his hall, the venue which has been given to us, and he is the MD and CEO of this wonderful institution, BSE Limited, and our guest of honor, an alumnus of IIT Bombay, and I am Calcutta. Ashish Bhai currently, as you all know, is the MD and CEO of the BSE Limited, best known as the father of modern financial derivatives in India. He was part of the core team of the 5 people selected from IDBI for setting up the National Stock Exchange way back, I think in 1993. And from 1994, I was also part of that advisory team in a little own way as a member. And at BSE, he is responsible for bringing the fastest trading platform of the system in India, revamping the entire Bombay Stock Exchange. He currently serves on the board of various group companies and is a member of Board of Governors of IIT Jabalpur. He serves as the chairman of Technology Committee of FMC, if I am not wrong, and is member of several SEBI and other government and industry body committees, rated among the top 50 CIOs of the world. He was the president and CIO of Reliance Group. During this period, he was also the CEO of Mumbai Indian team. He is considered as one of the foremost experts in policies, markets, microstructures, information technology, organized retail, telecommunication, social issues, cricket, etc. He has been widely awarded. I would just name one distinguished award, Alumni Award of IIT Bombay, Mumbai. Ashish ji will speak on an insight to BSE and the future growth plans for the equity and currency and commodity to make BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, as the global exchange. Ashish.
Respected Chairman FMC, Shri Ramesh Abhishek ji, Shri Nagendra Palak ji, Shri Praveen Singhal, Shri Siddharth Shah, Shri Ashok Ajmera, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and honor to be in front of you. I think my introduction was longer than my speech. That will be. So, thank you, sir, for all the nice words you say. Basically, it's good that Broker Forum always goes before where BSE goes. So, since BSE has decided to go and get into commodities exchange, Broker Forum decided to first clean up all the compliance related issues. So, I am delighted that Broker Forum is having visionary leadership that they go before BSE and clean it up so that whenever BSE goes, life becomes easier for everyone. And I would also like to thank Singhal Saab for his wisdom in getting this compliance manual done, because effectively all of us grapple with what is correct, what is not correct in each part of our life, and finally we give up saying, okay, let us do it, and then let the regulator come and inspect us and we'll figure out what to do then. But if we have some guidance beforehand, and as Siddharth Bhai said, it's very important to keep it updated, because literally every day newer changes are happening. And we need to be keeping our manual updated. It's one thing to prepare a manual, and second thing to keep it updated. So I'm sure a lot of efforts will go from the makers of the manual in keeping it updated. I remember and recall with fondness one book called Indian Securities Market. In India, we read all the books which are of foreign vintage. If you look at options, futures books, all John Hull and everything is basically from abroad. And most of them are written in such a way that nobody can understand. Even we basically read books relating to scams only from abroad. So Rajat Gupta, we have books, and we keep on quoting from them. That helps us also, because next door or even in the audience, some scams will be sitting, he will not feel bad, because Indian books we don't write, neither we read about it. So somewhere on the line, somebody from Japan, because he's not Indian, he decided to write a book on Indian securities market. His name is Tadashi Endo. He wrote a book, I think in 96, 97, on Indian securities market. It was first book, and it was nicely written, like every foreigner would write. It was nicely written, good cover, and he did a detailed work. He used to be the CEO of Nomura, and 2009 left NSE. And I met him in Washington DC. He was by that time IFC Washington person. So I went to his house and we had good chat. At the end he said, Ashish, now we need to update this. In 5 years, a lot of things have changed. So what to do? Will you be able to do it? I gladly accepted, saying, okay sir, I will do it. But now it is 2015, so 15 years after, I have not been able to do anything about the book. In fact, a couple of months back, when I went to Japan, we had a breakfast together, and he said, now at least you will have time to do the book. I said, no, now I have no time at all. So effectively, I think updating of anything we start is a very noble cause and very important, because otherwise it becomes a static document. So continue to keep it updated, and as and when BSE comes into commodities market, I'm sure it will be updated further to keep sort of BSE's practices also in terms of compliance into that. So thank you very much for this noble initiative, and I wish all the best. Of course, we have experts from the markets who will speak on budget, so I will also be listening very intently as and when that session starts. So thank you very much, Devin Bhai and Tulsiyan ji, for coming to BSE. Thank you, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashish Bhai. You are the torch bearer, we are the followers. Let us take the Indian flame higher and higher everywhere. Friends, it is my pleasure to introduce, of course, this introduction befitting the position which he enjoys today in this meeting as well as the chairman of the FMC will be 2 or 3 lines longer than Ashish Bhai's. It is my pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Shri Ramesh Abhishek. Shri Ramesh Abhishek joined the Indian Administrative Services in the year 1982 and has served in the state of Bihar central government for over 31 years. In the state, he worked as the district collector and of various districts and divisional commissioner of Patna. He worked in the government of India in the Ministry of Food Processing Industry, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Law and Justice. He has also worked in the Supreme Court of India, many of you may not be knowing, and the United Nations Mission in Kosovo. Mr. Ramesh has a master's degree in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School, where he was also an Edward Mason Fellow. He also has master's degree in business administration and international studies. During his stints in the Supreme Court and Department of Justice, he played an important role in bringing e-governance in judiciary and in judicial reforms. At present, as you all know, he is the chairman of Forward Market Commission, which is the regulator for the commodity futures market in India. During his stint in the commission has taken a number of measures to improve, as you all know, the market integrity, promote transparency in the futures market, improve the compliance regime, and strengthen the investor protection. Under his leadership, FMC is taking a series of proactive steps to strengthen the commodity futures market so that its potential for the price discovery and the price risk management is fully realized. His role in NSCL scam is known to help us bringing out that scam and to punish the culprits is well known to everybody. He has ensured that NSCL scam was exposed and those responsible for the same face consequences so that public trust in the financial markets remains unaffected. With this, may I request you to come forward and address us. Thank you.
Very good evening, Mr. Siddharth Shah, Ashish Chauhan, Mr. Parak, Mr. Singhal, friends. Let me first thank you for the glowing introduction. It didn't seem as if you were talking about me, but somehow all this has happened in a very short time while my stay in Mumbai was there has been. Let me first congratulate BSE Brokers Forum for doing this fantastic service to the commodity market by coming up with this manual. I have no doubt that this will go a long way in helping the members and all the intermediaries in adhering to the compliance. As has been pointed out, regulations keep changing, keep getting updated, but it's important that whatever has happened so far is properly documented. Since it's a slightly different market than the securities market, there are a lot of things that are different. Though we have been trying in the last few years to make a few things uniform also, but the fact of physical delivery of commodities brings in a totally different element in this market. I think that is where the main distinction is there with the securities market. So it's important that the compliance is known, the processes are known. Our effort has been for the last few years to make things easier by way of more transparency, more process-driven regulations, and we have tried to empower exchanges and make things easier. That process is still on, and we have tried to bring about a lot of changes in our regulation through enormous stakeholder consultations. That has been a hallmark of the way we work. We do such consultations all over the country with intermediaries, with value chain participants. I must have spent not less than 1,000 hours in various parts of India just listening to people, whether they are brokers or they are value chain participants or various commodities. And that is where another difference lies with the securities market, that you will find as many of you get into this market more and more in future. By the way, we are very glad that BSE is also planning to have a commodity exchange. We would like to have more competition in the market. And since the market has not grown much so far and the potential is huge, I think there is something for everybody here. So it's not necessarily, a zero-sum game. The size of the cake can be increased enormously, and I think it's good that such a professional institution like BSE is also planning to get into the exchange mode in commodity markets. But I think it's a great service that BSE Broker Forum has done. And as a matter of fact, as time passes, we would like to work with you also, as we work with CPI very frequently, in having more and more interactions of how we can make things easier. As we interact and we work very closely with everybody, we always uphold the principles of regulation, but that has not come in the way of having more consultations, with more feedback, because we have found that everybody would like to have better regulation. It's just that how to do that is something that we need to work. And we have tried to be very quick in our responses on many issues, but there is always scope for improvement. As we know, as this market grows, we have more products like options, index trading, we have more participants which are not allowed right now. The potential of growth is absolutely fantastic. And we need a good derivative market in commodities. It has also acted as a catalyst for improving the physical market, which, as we know, is very fragmented, very underdeveloped right now. So I think we can do a lot working together. Let me again compliment BSE Broker Forum, Mr. Shah, and all the nice things you have to say about me. And I wish you a very good foray and time in future in the commodity derivative market. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your best wishes to us and very enlightened address. Now the time has come when we are very glad to announce that after the hard work of over, I think, 6 to 9 months or more, the operations manual for commodity markets is ready to be launched. And who other can be better than the FMC chairman himself along with his member, and also the BSE MD and CEO, to launch this manual than anybody else. I would be failing in my duties if I do not acknowledge the contribution of certain individuals and organizations without whose support and dedicated work the compilation of this manual would not have been possible. Our own board member, very committed member, Shri Lalitji Mundla, he has worked very hard. Shri PK Singhal Saab, we got continuous guidance, anytime you can call him. He has put his people for proofreading, verification, making some alterations, modifications. So we are thankful to you, sir. We are also equally thankful to the NCTX team led by Sri Samir Shah, who is not, because I think he has got a board meeting or something to attend. He is not there with us this afternoon. And Kamlesh Bhai, of course, his team has worked very hard. So may I request now Lalitji himself, to the man behind the show, to come forward with the manual to be unveiled or to be launched at the hands of our chief guest. Can I request you to may I request even Alokji and all other members of our governing board, the members, please come and join this happy occasion here on the desk. We also recognize the presence of Shri Anand Rathi ji, who is there amongst us this afternoon. Welcome, sir. With this, we come to the end of this session. We are very thankful to Shri Ramesh Abhishek ji for coming here as chief guest and launching our this manual along with Shri Nagendra Parikh and the directors of the FMC. We are also thankful to we are also thankful to Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of Bombay Stock Exchange for gracing this occasion. Shri P.K. Singhal Saab, thankful to you. And we hope we'll get your patronage, support and guidance all the time. Thank you very much. And friends, we are not adjourning. We have the second session, which is also an equally important session. While the guests for the first sessions are leaving because of their own busy schedule, we have the very important session again here, as you all are eager to hear about what will come in this budget, Union Budget 2015-16. And we have two eminent speakers with us for that. What I will request the audience is that while they are speaking, the slips will be distributed to you. You can put your questions on those slips and pass it on to me. And on your behalf, after their addresses, I will take those questions with them and we'll get you the answers. So we can circulate these slips and pen and pencils to the audience. First, I would like to introduce a gentleman who has imbibed in his life a philosophy: work hard, do good, and lead a modest and simple life. A staunch Karma Yogi, Mr. Tulsian is a name to reckon with the Indian investors. A commerce and law graduate from Bombay University, Mr. Tulsian is also a chartered accountant and a company secretary. He was awarded with Poddar Ratna Award by R.A. Poddar College, Mumbai in the year 2010, which was probably among first 5 or 10 awards in 75 years history of that organization. Armed with academics and an astute sense of logic, S.P. Tulsian is a much sought after fundamental analyst today. Mr. Tulsian started investing way back in 1975 out of the pocket money, and he realized the potential of this market. And you know how active he became. He is the editor and CEO of sptulsian.com. The media and investors rely on his advice, which is seen as considered as unbiased, true, forthwith, free, frank, and in the best interest of the stock market investors. He is also often quoted in various newspapers, journals, television channels. With this, friends, may I request Shri Tulsian ji to kindly come forward and take his place here on the desk. May I request Purav Faujdar to kindly come forward and greet Mr. Tulsian with a bunch of flowers. Our second guest speaker this evening is Mr. Devin Choksi. Who does not know him? The illustrious son of illustrious father, the promoter of K.R. Choksi Group and managing director of K.R. Choksi Shares and Securities Private Limited. And K.R. Choksi is the name to reckon with again in this market. Armed with a distinction in the commerce and accountancy with academic training as CA, Mr. Devin Choksi has also undergone advanced management development program with specialization in management of funds and portfolio investments from IIM Ahmedabad. In addition to his academic success, he has secured indispensable experience in capital markets. He is the distinguished market voice at CNBC TV 18, ET Now, and many of the, or almost all the other business channels and print and electronic media. He has represented BSE at the Forum of International Tandem Users Group, San Jose, USA. I have correctly pronounced. He served BSE as a director of corporate post-BSE demutualization and also as a board member of governing council of Derivative Stock Exchange, Mumbai. He also served as a member of the Committee for Development of the Online Surveillance System, Committee for Designing the BSE Online Trading System, Finance Committee and Technology Committee at BSE. With this, may I request Shri Devin Choksi to kindly come forward and take his place here on the desk. Kishore Kamsagraji, please honor me by presenting bouquet to Shri Devin Choksi. To commence the discussion on the expectations of Union Budget 2015-16, you already saw how the railway budget has gone through. Not much of fanfare, no fatakda, which the market expects generally in this kind of happenings, but a solid footing, solid groundwork, the implementation of which is to be done in next 5 years. A clear roadmap. Do we expect the same from the Union Finance Minister? Let us see what our speakers have to say. I, as the moderator of this panel, this program, would not actually like to put my views over the views of the guest speakers this afternoon, but rather help you all getting the answers of your questions properly from these gentlemen. For that, I would request, as I requested earlier, to put your questions on a slip, put your name and give it to the volunteers so that the question comes to me. I'll ask it after their address. For that, to set the tone, I would request each one of them to speak for 10 minutes first, give their views, and then we take the question answers. Is that all right? Thank you. So, first, Gulshan ji.
Good evening, friends. First, let me thank the BSE Brokers Forum for inviting me to express my views here. As Ashok ji has said just now about the railway budget, that we have seen the railway budget having come out today and not seen much of the fireworks, but let's wait and wait for budget to see what all provisions will be there in the budget which we will be seeing day after tomorrow. Let me quickly just summarize the railway budget also. Sometimes I am unable to, I have been hearing the views of the people and all that, maybe the politicians, economists, the stock market experts. Sometimes we try to correlate the budget or maybe these kind of things with the market movements, because the market was down. Just to quickly summarize today's market fall, about 250 points down, BSE Sensex, of which the large contribution has come more from the Bank Nifty. I, as a fundamental analyst, I have been unable to correlate that what Bank Nifty has to do with the bad railway budget. Suppose one can understand the increase in the freight charges of coal or maybe of cement or maybe of other products, and you have seen the sectors or the stocks of those sectors correcting, one can understand. But I honestly don't see any reason that stock market, the fall of 250 points today can be attributed for the bad railway budget, because large portion of that has been contributed by Bank Nifty. It reminds me of the index management or maybe the things which we have seen. Bank Nifty has corrected maybe about 21,000 plus with the June expiry to as low as 18,500. I am not here to analyze the data and all those things. But quickly, what I want to say that probably if the expiry would not have been there today, we would have seen the market behave very positively in response to the railway budget. Take the case of cement. There has been an increase in the freight charges, but Century Textile, Prism Cement, many of the cement stocks have moved up by 3 to 5%, while maybe the Ambuja Cement, ACC, Ultratech have all corrected maybe because of their presence in the F&O or in the future and option. But anyway, let's not waste too much time. I in fact found I'm very happy with the railway budget, the kind of things which we have seen. We don't need a railway minister to speak for increase of the freight charges, laying of the road, railway lines, and all sort of things that we can always read in the paper or in the budget manual which he has presented, which ultimately eventually gets circulated. So same thing is likely to happen, and in fact for this union budget I have my very high expectations, maybe because of the political compulsion after seeing the defeat of BJP in Delhi. Probably they have realized that yes, people are very impulsive. They want to have, to see the benefits flowing to them on a real-time basis and in a very quick manner. They cannot wait for a couple of years, or maybe you cannot present a blueprint for next 5 years. But can you afford to give all the freebies or maybe all the short-term measures to the people in the budget? I don't think so. Because ultimately, if you really transform the country, you need a 5 years time. So yes, it will be more a balance of consumption, or where you increase the savings in the hands of the individuals and the investment acceleration which we are likely to see. And in fact, two themes which really appeals me and which I expect that government will really be very bold and will be focusing more on that. One is Make in India campaign and second is Swachh Bharat. Let's not take them as a message or just as a theme. If you want to promote Make in India theme, I just touch upon the two sections, section 35(8)(d), where the acceleration in the depreciation, because this 35(8)(d) provides for 100% depreciation if you have made capital investment in some of the projects. Now those projects are very few, maybe group housing, slum redevelopment and all that. I don't think that you can just remain confined to few industries. You need to enlarge the scope of section 35(8)(d). You have to include umpteen number of industries. Then only you can really compete. Second is reintroduction of section 80 HHC on account of the export profit. Because whatever you will be making in India, you will be requiring huge capex. For that you need the depreciation 100%, which Section 45AD provides, or which we can call it as an accelerated depreciation. And second is the profits which you will be making out of that. If you give them an incentive, just for ballpark, if I say that maybe 50% tax rate will be applicable on the export profit earned, then only in true sense the Make in India theme can really survive and can really go ahead. And second is the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which has been the dream project of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now take the case of CSR, which has been stipulated under Section 135 of the Companies Act, that companies, provide 2% of their profits as corporate social responsibility expenditure. But Section 37(1), which has been in fact clarified in the last budget also, that any amount spent on that will not be eligible as a deduction. I am unable to understand, because if you really ask a person in Mumbai, which I chat with many of the people, he say, yes, I don't want to throw a tissue on the road, but show me one dustbin even in the vicinity of 1 kilometer. Do you want me to carry that dustbin, that tissue in my pocket, or all along till I reaches my home? So yes, you need to have the facilities, you need to have the infrastructure provided, and I don't think that government can really provide all those things. So what is harm in providing the amount to be spent as part of corporate social responsibility as deductible expenditure? Even if you take the entire amount as taxable, or the maximum, the SSE falling in the maximum bracket of 30%, what governments are losing? Government is contributing 1/3, that corporate will be spending 2/3. So I think that if you really want to make these two programs a big success, which will be having far-reaching impact, then that can really work very well. These looks very small things. So I will be closely keeping a watch on Section 35AD and Section 37(1). These are on account of the corporates. Second will be, the government needs to attract the foreign investors in a very big way. We need huge amount of capital, whether you talk of investments in defense, power generation, roads and all that. For that you need to attract the foreign capital. So maybe yes, which we are widely talked of, which seems a unanimous decision, that GAR will be put on a hold for next 2 years. I will be happy to see that government says that it has been gone on the back burner indefinitely. Not for 2 years, but indefinitely. That can really please the foreign investors, obviously along with the fiscal prudence of maybe 3.5% fiscal deficit, maybe the GDP growth, which has already been in the public domain of talking of about maybe 8% 2 years down the line. And third, increasing the income in hands of the people. For that, you need to increase the interest on housing, increase the threshold limit from 2.5 lakhs to maybe 3 lakhs, reaching the personal tax brackets, or maybe allow just a small example. Section 80 TTA says that 10% of the dividend, 10,000 rupees dividend from the savings accounts are exempted. Now see, when the government has opened about 13 crore savings banks account under the Jan Dhan Yojana, and when I talk to the bankers and economics and people, they expect a deposit of 25,000 crore to come in those accounts. Because what is happening now, the data which we are getting of 8,000-9,000 crore, all the passbooks of those accounts, of 13 crore accounts, have not been issued. Once that happens, you are going to find a deposit of about 25,000 crore. And there are many people, those who keep a deposit of maybe about 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh. So merely granting a deduction of 10,000 on the savings bank's account, I think is a very minuscule. If they increase this amount, in a big way, maybe to 50,000. Because what you are giving him an incentive, he is merely earning 4%, 5%, some of the banks are offering. So that can go in a very big way. And apart from that, maybe interest borrowed for buying a house, or maybe by selling the long-term capital assets which are held by a person to buy another flat. Because if you have the house for all mission by 2022, I think that will also go in a very long way. So reaching some of the tax provisions which are applicable to the individual taxpayers, which will eventually increase maybe a savings of about maybe 25 to 50,000 rupees on an annual basis, plus some of the benefits which I have said, that which can enable him to buy or meet his aspirations, like at least buying a house, which every person in this country dream of. So these are the good things which at least I am expecting, and I am hopeful
because as I said that expiry is now behind us, and it is good that there are very low expectations. Maybe the market will be opening on a very low expectations and with the prices ruling at a very low level. So maybe post-budget I am expecting markets to perform very well, and the budget is likely to cheer and please majority of the market people. That is what I expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Tulsianji. Very important sections and the provision which he has touched, which is actually not talked commonly, but has great impact on it. Especially this CSR one. I mean, every one of us, we fail to understand why it not be deductible. You are asking one side to compulsorily incur these expenses and you are not treating it as an expense. So anyway, I think the answer should be there in this budget. May I now request a similar similar in the sense, the same way, Devan Bhai also to come forward and give his views.
Good evening, friends. Thank you, Ashokji, for your nice, kind words of introduction. And thank you, Siddharth Alok, for inviting me here on behalf of AEC Brokers Forum. Friends, it's always good feeling to be among those who are your very own. You are all our very own people. And I am always honored, I think, when some of the best minds sitting out here taking the views from me on the subject of our own interest. Where do we see ourselves going forward from here? I think it's something which we are all very anxious to know about. And budget is a document which would probably give that kind of a direction to us. While coming to this place, I think I was thinking on the way, what should be, I think, the key point, I think, which I should be delivering in the time in which I'm supposed to talk it out. And probably I thought that one of the best things which has happened to this country in last 8-9 months, apart from having got the majority in the parliament, a government which is committed to work, one of the very important factors which I realized that I think which is that God has been very kind on us, and I think He has blessed this country. With the situation of current account surplus and a possibility to manage fiscal deficit very well because of the fall in the crude oil prices. This is one single factor which I consider as a factor which has given a good amount of wind to this government to take some of the very profound measures, some of the very profound decisions. Always it has been a challenge in this country as to how to contain the deficit, the fiscal deficit. And because of those issues of not managing fiscal deficit well, I think we have been time and again seen our economic growth derailing because the priorities would get assigned to somewhere else. Out here, with the subsidy burden coming down, which is an important fact which we all of us know, but one of the very most important fact which I consider, which this government has articulated, and that could have a long-lasting bearing on our financial structure, they have actually started transferring the revenue and the project's expenditure in the hands of state, which according to me is going to be a very profound measure going forward. Every time when we look at the fiscal deficit situation, we would look at the receipt, we would look at the planned expenditure. Out here, the receipt of money, which is coming by way of taxes, the receipt of money which is coming by way of an important activity called call auction is getting transferred in the hands of states, and along with that, the planned expenditures are also going to be part of the state activity, which means that the management of fiscal deficit is going to be very, very clear, very, very strong from here onwards. Why I put so much of weight on this particular aspect? I think because of the fiscal indiscipline in this country, we have always been deprived of the growth, the growth has taken a backseat because monetary controls would come up because of lack of fiscal discipline. And out here through this particular framework itself, if they are suggesting that the fiscal deficit will be managed well, according to me, I think this would have a very long-lasting impact. And we can elaborate this subject, I think, at some point of time a little bit more as well. Another area where I find the advantages coming to us is by way of, I think, systematically implementing the framework of bringing the public money out for public expenditure. And I put it this way, that coal auction and the spectrum auction, they are the two important things which we would like to take on record, wherein the sum of money which would come in the books of the exchequers, be it state level in case of coal auction, such a large sum of money coming out, which could probably transform the economy big time because of the project execution ability that they would in turn have. Again, for the want of time, I will not elaborate this particular subject, but to my mind, I think these two areas, wherein the amount of money which the government would have, whether it is state government or central government, I think it gives a good amount of clarity for the receipt as far as the government is concerned. And that is another point, I think, which is very important. Most of the time, while looking at the budget, we have been looking at the collection of money from different sources. One of the sources which we would always look at is tax collection. To my mind, I think through this process, government has very clearly suggested that they would like to look at non-tax areas for collecting money into the system and give it to the state or the center for spending another planned expenditure. Actually speaking, in last 9 months, if you see whatever activities which have happened in this country, the framework which has been laid down through us projects which are having the social impact, we call it social reforms. The projects which are having the infrastructure impact, we call infrastructure reforms. Be it opening up of the railway sector, be it opening up the FDI in the insurance space, defense space. I think if you look at these all subjects, and again I think since the matter is already known to all of us, this framework is already been presented by the government, I would call it that in these 9 months, the government has conceived the baby very well. Budget is only going to be an event when it will get delivered. That is what I think. Given this kind of a framework, I think there is more amount of clarity, there is more amount of predictability of the economic initiatives that the country is taking or will be taking. So on this front, if I have to summarize one point, and they say that if 60 lakhs crores worth of investment program, if it has been lined up by the government through various initiatives, financial markets from where we belong to, I think will have a very major role to play. And that's where I think I would like to spend a few minutes and then probably take your questions. According to me, I think we are at the junction wherein such a large sum of money which is going to be raised in the economy, either through the OTC way of raising or over-the-counter way of raising, which is I think the space outside the listed market, or money raised through the listed market. I think we as intermediaries would have very large role to play in this particular opportunity which is being made available to us. Which also means, and I'm reminded about a 20 years back journey, wherein we initiated the transformation of Indian capital market then, at that point of time, by bringing the digitalization into our markets. According to me, if such a large sum of money has to be raised from the system now, we'll have to start thinking about reforming our markets hereafter. It's budget and markets impact, I think, on which I am talking, and I feel that the market reforms of next level will have to take place in coming period. What kind of reforms are we looking at? If the intermediary right now, like us, I think, who are concentrating more on execution of financial product, our roles will have to be redefined systematically from being execution-driven entities to fund mobilizing entities. The people who will be mobilizing larger amount of fund, execution will become part of it, but at the same time, I think larger role will have to be played for mobilizing funds. So where the reforms are required to be taking place in this market, probably I think we need to discuss at length on this particular subject. But my reading says that assume that I think we have a framework in which our market participants are allowed to execute their products through an executive agency, which is I think specialized agency. Assume that I think you have less amount of compliances and assume you have I think higher degree of comfort in executing these products. Such kind of entity will have to take birth. Entities who could do the clearing and banking function for you, which otherwise at an intermediary you are doing. I think if that function can be absorbed by somebody as a new entity, probably we all intermediaries will take larger role in raising resources in this kind of opportunity which this government is throwing open for all of us. Not elaborating on this particular subject, but certainly want to share more at some point of time with all of you. I would take my seat and probably have your question answers. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. We have an opportunity of Shri Anand Rathi ji also being with us this afternoon, and we must capitalize on it. May I request Anand ji to kindly come forward and address and take part in this panel discussion, please. Just for just your opinion, your views on the proposed budget.
Thanks, Ashokji and all distinguished members of our profession. It's always a pleasure to be here in this hall. My old memories get revived, and how a lot of people sitting here, we all worked as a team to create this hall for Bill Clinton's address to the nation, in fact, or to all the. I think very learned, distinguished speakers have talked. I know both Devan and Mr. Tulsian. They are better informed, more knowledgeable than me on the subject. But obviously, have more experience, less than Kishan Bhai, but still more experience in the. What I would look at, on the budget. I agree with the speakers that this budget is going to be a game-changer budget, because this is the first opportunity for this new government to demonstrate its plans. And I think if what has been told so far, particularly by the finance minister, it shows that they will look at two things. One is obviously consolidation of the economy. And therefore, I expect that fiscal deficit, and fortunately, as Devan has said, the oil prices have come down at a very opportune time, which is helping in every manner, both fiscal deficit as well as current account deficit. So, that definitely will take care, but it gives more leeway to the government to come with the infrastructure. I think what is the key for our growth would be how much government can bring money to kick-start infrastructure projects. What has been the minus points in last 5-7 years in our country, that while the consumption cycle has been going well and has been supporting our GDP growth, the capex cycle has not been doing well. And obviously, one of the major reasons for capex cycle not doing well has been a very high interest rate, very high inflation, and which led to the high interest rates. And at those interest rates, it's difficult to imagine that new capex will come. I remember about a year back, or more than a year and a half back, the earlier RBI governor, I was in a meeting with him, he mentioned that when the real interest rates are lower, why doesn't industry come and invest? And I had to tell him that, sir, no industrialist or entrepreneur looks at the real interest rates. Whether if the inflation is high and real interest is little lower than inflation, nobody wants to invest. There is a threshold, because when globally interest rates are so low, if you have to compete globally, your interest rates have to be low. The absolute interest rates have to be low. So what we are going to see, to my mind, next 1.5 years, I expect that the interest rates to go down at least by 150 to 200 points. on 10-year GSEC yield. I think we will really have good capex cycle when the GSEC comes to 6%. In that case, the corporate, good AAA corporates can borrow at about 7%. So 7 to 8% is the basic, because in other countries, even China has got less than 6%, less than 5% interest rate. So if to compete, we have to have a low interest rate regime. And if you see our growth in the last government, the BJP government, and then of course some part of the UPA rule, the interest rates have gone down. The 10-year yield has gone down to as low as 5%. And I think that's the key for growth, and that is why I expect that in this budget, the government will, one, kick-start infrastructure. Mr. Gadkari has been on record saying that they are trying to clear all the pending projects of roads. They are initiating now the water transport, which is going to be key. I was in a meeting where Mr. Gadkari said that in 1 year's time they will start water transport from Banaras to Kolkata. And friends, you might be aware in logistics, water transport costs 20% of the road transport. And railways cost about 60 to 70% of the road transport. So unless until we go to the lower cost of logistics, obviously we can't grow. So I think this government is well-intentioned. Now how much pressure, political pressure will be there to become, giving soaps after these Delhi elections is hard to guess. But I think there will be some impact obviously on that. But because if we do the direct transfer, this, the Jan Yojana to my mind is a game changer. I think once we have that, if the subsidies could be moved directly in the hands of the people for whom it is intended, your economic advantage would be far greater than what it is today. So on the whole, I expect this budget to be good. I expect economy to be good, and I expect markets to be very good. I think this would be a golden period for the investors in the equity, and obviously golden period for all of us. Thank you.
Golden period is here, and how can we leave the person without honoring him with a bouquet? Such a big announcement. May I request Shri Uttam Bagri, who happens to be here again, because he generally sits at the last row, The man who should sit here actually sits in the last row, but he's here. I spotted him. To kindly come forward and present a bouquet to our dear Anandji.
Arre, ghar ke yaar. I wish everybody grows up like this, Lord.
Thank you. So, any questions? Anybody has given this slip? I think the mic is all three mics. Yeah, any questions? Any slip has come? Okay. I think, yeah, so our chairman will start the...
Association, you have a number of mention to security transaction and number of options we have given. Every time they come out with saying that we should be your proposal, we should be a zero-sum game. I don't know what would be zero-sum game, we allow them somewhere to increase, somewhere to decrease. But why it is so that this security transaction tax, which everybody understands is a bottleneck for the market, for the traders, for the business people, they are not willing to look at it. Do you think they will be looking at this budget? And if yes, in what manner? If you can have some idea on that.
Sir, I think one should not be too caught up with the security transaction tax. Suppose if my See, let's understand the background in which the security transaction tax was introduced by the government. It was in lieu of the short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain. And rightly, government has made the long-term capital gain as tax exempt. So if you really see the background, I don't think that there is any reason or justification for abolition of the security transaction tax. But even I have been in the capital market for such a long time. I was a NSE member from 94 to 2007. Then I voluntarily surrendered my membership because I was not interested in the broking business. But the pain which is really causing, to the investors, which in fact I have also been making the representations. In fact, we had a meeting with Devendra Fadnavis ji about a week back. There also I have stated, I have sent my representation to the Delhi also. The pain is lying with the investors. Suppose if an individual investor buys and sells, we all know that he buys today, he sells tomorrow, maybe after 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, again he buys the same stock after a month. In that event, the department, the income tax office is treating him as trader, and they are taxing his entire long-term capital gain and short-term capital gain as business income, and not allowing the short-term capital gain tax at 15%, long-term capital gain tax at 0%. So actually that is the pain. Second point, now we don't see the investments being made by all of us in our individuals' names. We have our private limited companies. Take the case that you have an exclusive private limited company which makes only investment in the long-term investments. That is, the company buys a share, keep it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then they book the long-term capital gain. But again, the MAT applies there. You have to pay 18.5% MAT, which eventually gets carried forward for next 10 years. But what is the use? Because ultimately, if the business of that company remains for making investment into the capital market, and if we keep on carrying the MAT credit for next 10 years, so this is basically they are defeating the objective of introduction of the STT. Because what my point is, I have always said that if the STT of delivery, now see there are two different rates, STT on trading and STT on delivery. I say that if the STT of delivery has been charged by the broker or by the exchanges, I am entitled to claim short-term capital gain or long-term capital gain tax, because there cannot be then any subjectivity of the high-handedness by the department. So I think we all broker, or maybe the forum, I earnestly request, or this is what I feel, if you all concur, that we should impress upon allowing the short-term capital gain tax and long-term capital gain tax, even if the security transaction tax of delivery slab has been charged. And if we are able to do that, I tell you, lot of litigations will come to an end and our investors will really feel happy. So this is what my view is. Thank you. I don't know maybe what Devin Bhai has.
Yeah. Okay, Vice Chairman.
The follow-up question is that as panelists, are you concerned about the declining retail interest in our markets? The Indian investor is not to be seen. Markets are getting more and more monopolized by the foreign investors. So is that a cause of concern? And if yes, what can be done to restore the balance?
Sir, I think every person or every individual is a slave of gain or money or profits. If they won't make money, I don't think that anyone will going to remain invested in the market. And this is a very pathetic state of the market. Let me be little vocal, which may not get liked by some of the large broker houses and all that. The kind of advice which they get, firstly you are the brokers. Let's not, please pardon me, I'm not pointing on finger to any one particular thing and all that. Even I'm catering to the retail investors. I reply about 500 queries every day on my portal personally, because though I have a team and all that. But the kind of advice they get, the brokers, they just indulge an investor more into F&O trading. What is F&O? This is pure jua. Because see, F&O is intended either for leveraging or for hedging. Do we use that tool for hedging? The moment people will start using the kitchen knife for killing the people, or murder, then you will start blaming the kitchen knife also. So the tool F&O is misused by lot of our investors. They eventually lose money. They abuse the market. They abuse the broker. Call it as a casino and leave away. So if we actually the suggestion of allowing or availing the short-term capital gain tax and long-term capital gain tax rightly given to the investors, they will really feel the taste of the tax-free money. Plus, they should be discouraged to indulge more into F&O. I'm not saying that you stop them totally, but at least you can advise them that, okay, reduce your total money exposure, not more than 10%. Let there be your fun. You are using that money more for your entertainment and more for your fun. So unless until we do that, I think if a person is making money, now let me tell you, there are many investors, pure investors, they make money, they are not leaving and going away from the market. But those who come thinking that money making is very easy into the stock market, they come, they leverage into the F&O, make huge trading, lose money, wipe off their capital and then abuse the brokers, abuse the market and go away. So I think this is the whole problem which is now being faced by these so-called investors who are not investors but F&O traders.
Even by your views on the retail investors' non-participation.
I think if I were the head of a broker, then probably I find that as a retail investor, how do I service him? I think is a very big challenge. Frankly, we have tried to simplify so much of our regulations, but still I think we are working in a hybrid system, as I would call it. An investor who comes into this market, he basically wants a very seamless execution ability. We ask this simple question: if an institutional investor's trade gets settled by the custodian, why individual investor's trade is not getting settled by the custodian? Why the broker should be acting as a settlement agency for the individual investor? This is the first level of pain that you face. As a result of which, I think you are loaded with series of compliances as a broker, which you in turn pass it on to investor. Regulators always feel that I think we ask broker to comply, that would be sufficient. But I always put it this way, that if you put the pain on the main intermediary, that pain will get passed on to the spine, the investor. And that's where the problem is. The first level of, I think, hurdle which we see is an operational hurdle. We are working in a hybrid system. This system has to be corrected. We are still living in 20 years old system. I think that has to get corrected. Second point, as Mr. Tulsian said, the advice to the investor has to be more profound. Somehow or other, I think 60-70% of the time of an intermediary goes only in managing the operations. He cannot find time to even go to the investor to give advice to him. This is the second point. And third point, according to me, I think it's a killer. Probably I'm yet to come across a market where I think we will find this kind of pathetic brokerage rates. We believe that I think the lower the brokerage rate, more number of investors will come into the market. It's actually, according to me, pardon my language, but I think it's a stupidity. If you give this kind of a services where you don't charge brokerage, quality can't be expected. Investor will not get the quality, and if investor is not getting the quality, he will not come to the market. So these are some of the fundamental issues. I think they needed to be addressed first. Since unfortunately they are not being addressed, I think we are facing this particular pain. My friend Siddharth Adare was telling me that in the Chinese market, they have the regulations wherein I think they have minimum brokerage criteria from ages. And in Chinese market, I think some Chinese brokerage houses have actually been, I think, progressing very well. Out there, I think MNC brokerage houses have been invited into China market only for the sake of, I think, getting the better part of the world. Otherwise, I think major business is being done by the Chinese intermediaries, the brokerages, because of this kind of profound way of working, the kind of systematic way of working into giving services to investors. Unfortunately, in last 20 years, we have progressed very well with the digitization of the market, but we have not made enough amount of progress in taking care of the services which are going to the investor. I challenge this audience out here that if you are, even if I think some part of the knowledge is missing in you, I bet on it, I think you can't trade in this market. For trading in this market, I think you really require a very systematic intermediary called advisor. In last 3 or 4 years in America, after particularly the debacle of 2008, there is one new category which has taken a birth, registered independent advisors. And those advisors would advise the wealth of the investors. And that's where I think that market is stable. I think such kind of initiatives are required to be taken in this market. If you do take those initiatives, I'm sure I think we'll come out of the clutches of these problems that we are facing right now.
The next question is from my friend Jayant Roshniwal. Where are you? Yeah, last. What are your views on the US foreign currency denominated asset class being made available to the domestic investor within the specified limit of $250,000 per person per year? Why can't it be traded here in India? like US Treasury bonds or other stocks and other things? Is there any view?
It's a good question. I think, and frankly, I think the answer to that question should come up somewhere in the budget direction. What I understand, Jay, is most likely IFC code will be announced in the budget. International Financial Center code will be announced in the budget, in which the intermediaries will be operating out of Indian shore for the foreign asset trading. As of now, I think this particular process is allowed, but unfortunately, I think it's not so easy for you as an investor to go and deploy your money into the foreign markets. That is probably, I think, working as a limitation at this point of time. To my mind, I think once the IFC code is announced, and in following period when the market comes up, I would think that I think the process of investing into the foreign currency assets would probably become more simpler. We all hope to get, I think, this particular code coming out in this budget.
So Zianji, just give only 2 steps which will kick-start the economy. My friend Purav Fauzdar asked this question.
See, Ashok, as I said in my brief presentation, you need to have 2 things. First, that you need to create the savings in the hands of the people, which will eventually go for spending. So, make investments, give more jobs. More jobs will lead to higher income. Higher income will lead to higher savings and higher spending. We have seen these savings, falling to a level of 30%, 30.1%, I think, for FY14 it was. So, government has to look upon 2 things. One is investment and second is consumption. Because you cannot, either the economy can be revived by the savings economy or maybe the expenditure economy. Savings goes for investments, expenditure goes for spending. So yes, by spending you can see the improvement in the FMCG, housing finance, consumer durables, personal care. While in the investments, you see all in infra projects, power generations and all that. So there has to be a mix of both the things in this budget. Government nearly cannot, because if they opt to go for the investment route or maybe the savings route, that's you will see light at the end of the tunnel after 3 years, 4 years, which we don't have that kind of patience. We are quite impressed. So give them some benefits, even if a benefit of 25 to 50,000 rupees per year in the hands of an individual person will really see the economy reviving. So let there be a combination of both in this budget.
Okay, let's say something, what your opinion, both of you separately, is about the duty structure, excise and custom duty. What do you expect the FM to tinker with, and what would be the impact segment-wise on various industries on that? What do you see? Devendra?
Well, as I understand, see the tax to GDP ratio right now stays somewhere around 10%, 11% kind of a ratio in which I think we are collecting tax today. And tax is a component of economic growth. That's what I'm trying to drive at. That if you have to have higher amount of tax, economic growth has to come back. Unfortunately, in earlier years, for a variety of reasons, I think we haven't had the kind of economic growth that which we probably wanted to have. Now, assuming that we come closer to double-digit rate of economic growth, to my mind, I think this particular collection of taxes would increase at a broader level. Now, whether this particular tax collection should increase in this financial year or it should increase in the next financial year, according to me, I think since the economic growth has not yet started, to assume that higher amount of tax would come in your PT, I would not think that the finance minister would even take that assumption. I would rather think that the finance minister would start taking the assumption of collecting more amount of money from non-tax revenues. And that's where I think his comfort level would probably increase going forward, even at the same time in the next financial year. Second most important part is GST rollout is scheduled for April 2016. So if at all there is any change in indirect tax, it will be more towards alignment of the rates and not otherwise. I don't expect, I think, rates to change substantially and government to go for substantial amount of credits due to the collection of higher amount of taxes. Third point, which is not related to the tax rates, but I think more importantly, a philosophy on which I think the budget might probably take care of this particular subject. I personally think that it is time that the government leave more amount of money in hands of people. You look at 30% savings to GDP ratio, and on your nominal GDP of 1,25,000, 1,30,000 crores, if you take that 30% ratio, I think the sum of money which is being talked about is 40 to 45 lakh crores. Out of 40-45 lakh crores of money, 5% of the money gets into the investment into equity, pension and insurance. 5%. Balance sum of money gets invested into bank deposits and some physical assets. What I strongly believe that if 60 lakhs crore worth of investment program in government is pursuing over next 5-7 years, then in such situation they will have to make enough amount of effort to leave more money in the hands of people so that savings fund goes up and it ultimately gets translated into the investment into some of the asset class like equity, which is very strong case out here. Fortunately, we are in a hopefully a downward rate cycle. If that is so, more amount of money should get allotted to equity, and that could possibly bring larger amount of change. So I think probably I tried to cover the question a little bit in a different manner to make the point that I think more money would come into the equity markets eventually.
Even by more on macro, Tulsian, some micro tomorrow, day after, what do you think can come and can impact which segment or which stocks?
See, Ashokji, let me just extend the point of what Devin Bhai said in respect to the tax. Just very, very small things. I think I'll just confine myself only on the GST and the rate convergence of the rate, In fact, I have been, seeing people talking, the experts coming on the channel, on many of them have, apprehended that probably the rate will discover at 22, 23, 24%. I think this is all ridiculous because if you really see goods and services tax, the services are contributing more than 50% to the revenue, to the exchequer, and that is already high. And in the manufacturing, if you really see 4% also, the excise duty 5% is also there. So in my view, I have talked to many experts, those who have been advising the government also. I don't think that the rate will converge beyond maybe 18 or 19%. So it is just, just because the moment if you discover the rate or you convert the rate at 23, 24, 25%, there will be a lot of evasion, not the compliances. So yes, you don't need to worry, and yes, the negative which can come in this budget, because if you have to introduce the goods and the services tax, and even if I presume that it is 17 or 18%, it has to be a gradual increase. So maybe a jolt can come in the form of 12 to 14% in this budget, and then maybe eventually they will try to convert it at 17, 18%. So this is just on that. Now coming on the budget, I have already said that I am really eyeing on 2 or 3 things. One, in respect to individuals, you have a lot to get from the government. As I said, because all these things, small things, take the case of conveyance and medical allowances. What they are getting now, 9,600 and 15,000 on a yearly basis. We all know that every day the conveyance expenses are increasing, whether you travel by metro, you travel by share, you travel by train, you travel by bus, you travel by car, and you are allowing 9,600 as the conveyance allowances for the ages. Similarly, 15,000 as the medical allowances to the service class. Increase that limit at least from 9,600 to 15,000, 18,000, medical from 15 to 24. So there are a lot of umpteen number of deductions which need to be seen in this budget, maybe in respect of the interest, because if the government is talking of home by 2022, give the deduction on the interest as well as on the loan repayment. So these are the things I am expecting big amount of booty to be given to the individuals, which will eventually give them an increase or maybe saving in the tax to the extent of anywhere between 30 to 45,000 on a yearly basis. Maybe because of rejig, maybe if the slabs may not get increased from 2.5 to 3 lakhs, because last year only they have increased it in one go by 50,000, but this time there will be definitely rejig. But yes, on the corporate front, I am very hopeful and I am expecting very minutely, because this Make in India is such a dream and a far-reaching theme which has been initiated by the Prime Minister. So for that, lot of things has to come. And maybe again, this fiscal deficit, all fiscal prudence will be maintained by the government. So overall, you have to keep, probably this will be the best budget in the last 15 to 20 years, which will really be requiring brainstorming session and lot of time to analyze each and every provisions.
So at this point, I can invite you all on 28th of February on the budget day evening when Tulsianji will be there analyzing the budget and impact of the budget at KC College Hall at 5:30 p.m. onward, where I will be the same, I will conduct the program. You are all invited there. Mesh Federation in Jito organized program. Yeah. So any scope for any like progressive taxation in the corporate, like individuals, the differential rates or something? Do you think any such possibility?
See, already I don't know what you exactly want to.
Say up to 10 crore of companies, 20% tax.
No,
up to 100 crore, 30%.
See, in case of individuals, we have already seen the super rich tax. The 10% surcharge which was imposed by Chidambaram, and that was for 1 year. And unfortunately, that actually ought to have been removed by the Arun Jaitley in the last budget. But it is, in fact, it is very pain to see that once they test the income, they never, think of going back from that, number one. I don't think that there is going to be any kind of increase in the tax rate, whether on the progressive basis or maybe the differential tax, that above 10 crore the corporate tax will be 30, instead of 30 it will be 35. People have been talking of surcharges or maybe some kind of cess for Swachh Bharat and all that, but even I would see all those as ridiculous, Even I am not in favor of the education cess also. I am not saying that I am against, I am not there to promote the education. But if the government is collecting the taxes, they need to confine their receipt and expenditure within the framework of those things. You just can't say, okay, tomorrow they will say, okay, I am giving you Swachh Bharat, give me cess. Tomorrow they will say, I am giving you clean water, give me cess for water. Tomorrow they will say, I am giving you clean air, give me cess and surcharge for that. So these are all ridiculous. Why you are collecting 30% tax from corporates and individuals? Number one. Number two, in all logical sense, they should remove the super rich tax on the taxable income of beyond 1 crore. So I don't see any kind of tax increase happening in case of individuals or maybe in case of corporates, even on account of the progressive or maybe the slab, differential slab stipulated for both the SSE. There may be some kind of cess, and if that comes in, probably that will also be unfortunate. In fact, I have criticized last time when the DDT, dividend distribution tax, was imposed on the gross basis instead of net. I said these are all the mean bureaucracy approach and all that which government should not submit to their suggestions. And I hope that this time they restore back to the net dividend distribution tax. They must think big, because if you are looking for a $1 trillion of investments in next 5 years, you need to think big. You need to don't tinker the provisions in such a manner of having super rich tax or dividend distribution tax on gross basis.
Right.
Yeah, taking this particular point a little forward, I think if at all we take some cue from the railway budget which has come today, I was very happy to find some 67% increase in railway budget in form of the services to the customer, the traveller, and followed by the statement coming up from the railway minister that we have no moral duty to charge any additional charges to the customer till the time we improve the facility for the customer. Why I am putting this argument forward while discussing this tax subject? What I liked in this entire budget, railway budget, the kind of detailing in which they have gone into in providing the kind of services to the customer, the same subject would probably happen in the finance budget, in the union budget on Saturday. What I believe is there are significant amount of hurdles for corporate India to comply with the taxations. In fact, I think it kills the efficiency of the organization, and this is what this government understands very well. If you read their commentary from time to time, they've been very clearly saying that we want to bring down the hurdles and we want to create more amount of possibilities for people to do business in this country. According to me, is a strong case this time around for simplification of tax structure, particularly in the direct tax side. There is going to be a significant amount of efforts probably will be made in simplifying the tax structure. Whether that would result into higher amount of efficiency, answer should be yes. It should bring down the tax rate, answer may be yes or may not be yes. But at the same time, efficiency of tax, which I call it, I think, the biggest factor. If government ends up collecting net tax revenue, which is higher, that means I think the litigation and other issues are solved. Then I think the amount of money in the hands of government, the yield factor of the tax would be higher. And that is what I would think that this government would consider in this particular budget.
If there is no question, one last question on GAR. Like Tulsianji, I think already touched this point. But what is your opinion, Devin Bhai? Will it be, deferred forever, or will be dropped, or can they drop?
Like you all, I think I am also, I think, part of the market, and I feel that I think GAR is definitely, I think, a subject which probably requires a detailed amount of consultation on the side of government. Probably country is not ready. In one line, if I have to put it across, I can see smile on face of Amit. I think he would like to talk it out more on the subject, I suppose. But the fact is that country is not ready for GAR, as I would see. I think it would be safe to assume that they may defer GAR for next 2 years, and thereafter I think of bringing the tax in a little better format.
Thank you, Shri Devin Choksi and Shri S.P. Tulsianji, for sparing your time and to be here. I think you answered all the questions very satisfactorily, and I think the audience is going rich from your knowledge which you shared with them. And let's hopefully see that the budget provision comes up to the expectations of the market, our expectations, and as is expected from this government, they put down a clear roadmap to attain the double-digit growth for this country. We are hopeful for that. And with this, may I request Shri Alok Churiwala to kindly come forward and propose vote of thanks for both the sections of the program which we had today.
Good evening, friends. Always a very pleasant duty to deliver the vote of thanks. Budgets आते हैं, budgets जाते हैं, कभी खुशी, कभी गम. But BSE Brokers Forum has been with you and shall remain with you through thick and thin. We'll keep bringing you such programs. We've done this in the past, we are doing it now, we'll do it in the future. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not thank Chairman and MD of FMC, Shri Ramesh Abhishek, and his team of Nagendra Parak, Yogesh Kamath, and Director Sanjay Pugalia. They are in absentia, they had to go. Shri S.P. Tulsian and Devin Bhai, all good friends, and they have very lucidly and very simple language and straight from the heart conveyed what they have had to. I would also like to thank Shri Anand Rathi, who our dear Ashok ji did a sting operation on. He was not supposed to be a speaker, but seeing him in the audience made the most of it. So this is the objective of Forum, to always deliver you that much extra. While on delivering that much extra, I will stop my vote of thanks for a bit and remind you of your moral duty that the BSE Brokers Forum has sent membership forms to all of you. Make sure that your checks do come in thick and fast. Now I begin with the vote of thanks again. Of course, our dear MD and CEO of BSE, in whose hall we sit, we take more than our share of liberty, Shri Ashish Chauhan. He also had to leave for some reason. Kamlesh Bhai and his team, once again I would request you to give Kamlesh Bhai and his team a big hand. They've done a tremendous job. And why we keep repeating Kamlesh Bhai and team? अगर कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई तो गाली भी उनको ही देना. But I'm sure nothing like that has happened. Mr. Singhal from MCX, he's not here right now, but he has supported us as a sponsor. Shri Samir Shah from NCDX was also a sponsor. Members of the media, and of course our very own Ashok Bhai for being a splendid master of ceremonies. Time and again he has risen to the occasion and delivered that much extra. I fail in my duty if I do not thank Team BSE, who constantly support us with anything and everything that we ask for. Team BBF, led by Vispi and Aditya, they have done a wonderful job. And I will be failing in my duty if I do not mention the worldwide audience that we get through the internet. So a word of thanks to all you guys in cyberspace for being with us and continuing to support us. And finally, a big round of applause to you, the audience, for coming out in large numbers, supporting BBF and making sure, giving us the inspiration to continue with these programs forever. Thank you very much.
I request the governing board members to kindly come forward here for a photo opportunity. Kishan Bhai also, and Vispy and Aditya. And one gentleman who is saying I am not part of it, he is the part of it. He has to come.